Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the Opposition Preview. International break is done. Last one until March. All that rubbish is finished. Club football's back and it's a big one. Newcastle against Chelsea at St James's Park. The Blues, probably international break came at the wrong time for us, coming off the back of two good results and performances against Spurs and Man City. Probably came at a good time for Newcastle, all the injuries. Back-to-back defeats to Dortmund and Bournemouth. So, yeah, two teams kind of in contrasting fortunes at the moment, even though Newcastle's seventh, a few places above us in the table. I can't lie, I fancy us a little bit in this one, but we're gonna dive into it. As you can see, I'm joined by Pete from Loaded Mag NUFC. Mate, great to have you. Pleasure, as always, to talk all things football. Bro, how are you feeling about Newcastle? You're sitting seventh in the table. Champions League group is a tough one. You're still in your hands in terms of qualifying. How do you assess it, kind of heading into the run to sort of Christmas and the New Year? How are you assessing kind of where Newcastle are at right now? You happy?
Weirdly, I am, because it's been a weird season, like full of excitement, Champions League football, first time in 20 years, and all that's been brilliant. Like, loved every minute of it, but I have to say, like, the injuries have just been absolutely, like, we've just been decimated. I know you boys have been.
Don't need to tell me about that.
I know both teams. We've both been hampered by it, but I do think it's really kind of affected where I truly believe we could have been. Like, we're sitting eighth in the Premier League right now. We're bottom of the Champions League group of death, all the rest of that, and we're in a cup quarter final. Like, I can't really moan. Like, sorry, we're seventh, so like we are where I kind of wanted us to be around at this point in time, particularly in the Premier League. We're still in the chance of the Champions League. We're deep in the one cup that we're in out of the two. But it's, if we didn't have those injuries, I'd be expecting us to be further up the table. Like, I've expected us to at least have another 6-7 points and be fighting that sort of top three right now. I genuinely do, and I think the fact that we are where we are, and it's still only 7 points off. It is only 7 points after 12 games. With the amount of injuries that we've had, like, I'm excited about the season ahead. I've always maintained, if we can get to Christmas and be in the top 8, still in Europe, whether that's Champions League or Europa League, I genuinely think we can absolutely smash the second half of the season and have a real kind of push for top 4 again, and maybe go deep in another competition, which, this is what we want on a regular basis. You boys know it. Charlie, you know it. You boys have been there, done that. You've won everything that England has to offer, as well as the European trophy, the Champions League twice. So you know what it takes to be there every season. And this is where we need to be. We want to be there, but we know it's going to take us time. So I see it as progress.
Yeah. Do you know what? Do you know how I see it with Newcastle? Is like, I know, obviously not you, but you see like I see some noise from Newcastle fans on Twitter and stuff. I know it's not the best place to go and whatnot, but feeling they should be doing a bit better, perhaps a bit of pressure coming on Eddie Howe. But I look at it and I think almost he's kind of a victim of his own success, as it were. I think last season, Newcastle fans would admit that having stayed up from relegation when Eddie Howe come in, to then finish 4th in his first season was a massive overachievement. That probably wasn't due as early in the plan or the project, as it were. And that kind of brings more pressure on itself. It kind of brings more expectation. Whereas for me, if you'd finished, say, 7th or 8th in the first season, got Europa League or Conference League, and then you kind of gradually build on that, I almost feel there's like, he's coming under maybe a little bit of pressure from some fans because of the fact he's done so well so soon. I mean, obviously it's great. Everyone wants Champions League football for the first time in 20 years. But do you feel, I don't think I can say you feel it's come too soon, but do you think in an ideal world, when some teams come up into the Premier League, like it's probably been a season too early for them to come up, but obviously you don't say no to it. Do you think when you kind of reflect back on it potentially, do you think maybe this is, I'm not saying it's one season too soon to be in the Champions League, but do you get what I'm getting at in terms of like it's well ahead of the process, and that brings additional pressures and then almost a disappointment, as it were, if you don't qualify for the Champions League this season. Do you get what I'm getting at?
100%. And the reason being is because when we got Champions League football last May, like we all said it as fans, and the club said it. It was like we got this way earlier than we expected, probably a year or two earlier than we actually expected to be at. And so it was a surprise for us. Like, are we going to complain? Not at all. We're absolutely buzzing at the fact that we got Champions League football, and to be fair, our football over the course of the season deserved it. In comparison to the likes of Liverpool, who nearly pipped us but didn't have a great season in themselves. And I just think it was a little bit too early in terms of where this squad is at. So we've got players that have come in within this squad, not necessarily the regular starters, and have played way beyond their means, like literally played some of the best football of their career. Case in point, Jacob Murphy. Doesn't start every week, but when he comes on, he will get an assist or a goal or create a magic moment in a game. And you just think, we were begging for him not to be playing when Steve Bruce was in charge before the takeover. And now we're like, you know what? He's doing a job for us. You know, you look at the likes of, even this season, the likes of Paul Dummett, barely kicked a ball. He managed to get 2 clean sheets, one of them at Old Trafford and the other one against Man City. You're thinking, how has this happened? Like, he's barely kicked a ball in the last 5 years. And the point I'm getting at is these players, we're still needing them at times in the season. And they're just, with all due respect, great servants to the club, but they're just not good enough. And when we get past our 11, we want to be able to look at 5, 6, 7 options and go, any one of those can play. And any one of those is going to make a massive difference to this team. And to be fair to Eddie Howe, he has made those improvements. There have been some improvements, and the injuries have massively affected us seeing the fruits of that labour from the summer. But there's still more work to be done. 100%.
Yeah. I think I look at it of Newcastle, and maybe I don't think you need like a clear out in the same sense as what we've had at Chelsea. But I think, as you say, those players that have been here for a long time, your Crafts, your Dummets, and all that sort of thing, they've been great servants, and they'll serve a purpose. Certainly, you know, as you come into the busy fixture list, you know, games every 3 days or cup competitions or whatever it is. But ultimately, like, I look at Newcastle, when everyone's fit, it's a very good first 11. But I think it's similar in a way to Spurs, similar perhaps in a way to Arsenal last season, where if your first 11's fit every week, it's not really a problem. But we all know that football doesn't work like that. And I just think right now, with where Newcastle are at in the process, the drop-off from what you've got in your first 11 to the bench is massive. And if you want to be competing regularly for the Champions League spaces, potentially getting your hands on a trophy, then that has to improve. I think Newcastle have gone about it the right way in terms of how they're gradually spending money, gradually sort of bringing in a caliber of player that's a little bit of an improvement rather than just going for the big name straight away. I think you've got to ease yourself in. And look, Eddie Howe might be the first guy of the project. He takes it so far. Someone else comes in and really takes you on another level. Who knows? But yeah, I think the recruitment is good. I like what Newcastle are doing. But yeah, there's no escaping from the fact that the drop-off is massive. Yes, you've had more injuries than you could imagine. And of course, you know, any team has that many injuries, it's going to be stretched to the max. But I mean, if you look at, say, I know obviously January is approaching. If you're going to qualify in the top 4, if you're going to get Champions League football or make a very good run at it, do you think there needs to be serious investment then? I mean, you probably look to bring in a midfield player to cover off Tonali's ban, whether it's a Calvin Phillips on loan or whatever it might be. But do you think January investment is crucial to Newcastle, you know, potentially finishing in a Champions League?
Honestly, mate, I think it's been made crucial now.
Yeah.
I honestly think if we'd have not had the injury, we will always improve in the window. I think at least for the next 3 or 4 years. In the January window, we will always try and invest in some way, shape, or form. And we did last January when we got Anthony Gordon in, paid 45 million for him. We got him in the door. He's done
really well.
He didn't to begin with. It literally took him the back end of the season. And actually, his big moment that kind of kicked him into gear was scoring at Stamford Bridge last game of the season. I was in the away end, and that really kick-started him. He went on to get player of the tournament at the under-21s. England won that tournament, and then he came back to us absolutely bouncing. And now we're seeing a £45 million player. He's had a brilliant start to the season. 4 goals, I think 4 goals, 3 assists, something like that, is a decent turnaround. He hasn't played every game either, but he's really kind of kicking on, and I can see him getting double figures, either assists or goals, at some point this season, because I think once we get our players back and we've got full throttle and he's got those players around him that can open up space, he'll make a massive difference. But going back to the January talk, with the injuries and with the fact that we've been having to lean on players that are probably not good enough, I think it's maybe made the decision for Newcastle to go, actually, you know what? We need to invest. And I thought there'd be one player come in, a Calvin Phillips, as you talked about, but I can actually see maybe 3 coming in now. Yeah. And I think it could well be a centre-back, a right centre-back, a defensive midfielder, and an attacking player that is versatile. So can either play on the right or play as a frontline striker, just in case we have a similar situation like we did for Bournemouth, where we had no striker.
Yeah.
Wilson and Isak were injured, having to play Gordon down the middle, which is just not ideal. I think Joe Linton was up there from one point, which he's just not a striker. So I do think there'll be 2 or 3, hopefully 3 investments being made, and that I think will give a new lease of life to the squad, bringing new players in, but equally be able to get them to hit the ground running and really kind of take the Premier League by storm. Because I genuinely think this second half of the season we can really give it a go.
I mean, it's a big period coming up for Newcastle. Even your next 3, us on Saturday, and then a few people in the chat saying you've got the I forgot about it. You've got the PSG game away midweek, and then I think you go to United the following weekend. So it's a big games coming up. I mean, people in the chat asking, like, is obviously you got the PSG game coming up midweek. I'm not sure. Like, it's always tricky to say whether managers like look ahead of the latest game. But do you think there's? I mean, is this the most important game for Newcastle, or do you look at the PSG one and think, right, is that more important than a Chelsea game? How are you approaching it as fans in terms of the importance of the games? Because as you say, you're quite stretched injuries wise. Do you see Eddie Howe just going for it in both games, or do you think there could be half an eye on this PSG game in midweek?
Eddie Howe will go for it in all 3 games. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's done it every game this season. When we were down to our bare bones and he put a squad together to play against Man City at home in the Carabao Cup, he did it and we managed to win. He did exactly the same at Old Trafford. Everyone thinking, flipping hell, we've got target. We had like 3 left backs starting the same game, and we're thinking, bloody hell, like, what's going on here? We end up winning 3-0. Like, he will go all out to win every single game. So that's a given. If you're asking me which ones are the priority out of the Premier League, I think we've got you guys at home. Then we are, as you said, away to PSG, but then we have Man United at home the weekend after. And I honestly think the Premier League games are the most important.
Yeah.
And I think those games being at St. James's Park help us, because every other game in the Champions League that we've had so far, we've had then the return game after that in the Premier League away from home. And we've won some of them, but we've lost and we drew a few, and we've struggled to get going in some of those games. But I think having it at St. James's Park like Saturday, but certainly for the week after against Man United, I think that's going to give an extra 10-15% to the players being at home with the crowd on, like, honours, backing us, or all the rest of it. I think that could be a big factor in it. And the reason why I don't see PSG being that sort of game where it's crucial and more important is because I actually, and a number of Newcastle fans have said the same, we actually are pinpointing AC Milan, the last
last one at home,
at St. James's Park. We say that one is crucial. Like, if we were to take a point at the Parc des Princes, I think we'd be more than happy with that, because that's still potentially, depending on how the other results go, could still keep us in with a chance. We've got a better head-to-head with PSG if we get a point against them, for example, because we beat them at home. we would probably want Dortmund to get a win to keep AC Milan down there. And then if we beat AC Milan, it's the up in the gods in terms of what happens between Dortmund and PSG. But there's certainly at least a chance of getting Europa League.
Yeah, you
and
take that, wouldn't you?
Staying in Europe is
Yeah.
crucial. So for us, it's the last one against AC Milan that is crucial. And I don't think if we were to beat you boys Saturday and then sort of lose to PSG, I don't think there'd be many fans that would complain about that.
No.
I just don't think that they would. I think they'd be quite happy with that. If we went and beat you guys at St. James's and then went on to beat Man United the week after, I think Newcastle fans would take that all day long.
No, 100%. I mean, let's talk about a little bit of Chelsea Newcastle link. So you took Lewis Hall off us in the summer. At the time, quite a lot of Chelsea fans were disappointed. Obviously, Cucurella was coming off a tough season. Obviously, right now he's playing exceptionally well, and he's right back in the mix. And Lewis Hall's almost forgotten about in a sense. But at the time, there was a bit of an uproar about it because he was another young, exciting, talented player that had come through Cobham. He's gone to Newcastle, obviously loan with an obligation to get around the FFP. How's he done? Because I'm not followed him closely, but every time I've seen him play, he's been subbed at half time. I mean, how's he getting on up there?
He's had a slow start, to put it nicely, and that's okay. He is going through a phase right now, very similar to what Anthony Gordon, I mentioned before, did with his first 6 months at Newcastle, where it was very, very slow. Performances weren't amazing, and you had some people then going, especially opposition fans saying, "He threw money down the drain. He's not worth it." And then you look at Gordon and what he's doing. It's a methodical, strategic process that Eddie Howe's got Lewis Hall doing. We have to remember, you may know more than me, Charlie, as well, is the fact that he didn't really have a pre-season at Chelsea.
No.
He wasn't really involved. Pochettino didn't really give him much football, and we suffered the effects of that, because when he came to us, Eddie Howe's looked at him and gone, you're not fit. Because the one thing about Eddie Howe's teams is that they are super fit, and they're super intense, and you have to have fitness at a certain level to even be considered to start a game or play regular football. So what we've seen from Lewis Hall since he came into us, and he came quite late in the window as well, sort of like late on into August, I think it was. Now, what you're finding now is that he's using this early part of the season to build up his fitness. And the games he's been involved in are almost like pre-season, because that's what we do in pre-season. Our players don't play full matches. They'll play 45 minutes, and he'll do half and half. He'll have one half that will play the first, one half will play the second, and then he rotates it in the next game, and so on and so forth. So we can see what he's doing. Other clubs won't. They'll look, you paid 28 million for Hall, you're not even playing it. But we can see the process because we've seen it with other players. And this is what Eddie Howe does, and he'll build him in. I expect Lewis Hall to kick on, I would say, from sort of February onwards. And
where do you see him playing as well, by the way? Because he played, because obviously, like when he was in the academy, he was a midfield player. But then he obviously found himself playing a lot of left back for us due to the injury issues we have. Where do you see him playing at Newcastle? Do you see him actually being utilised as a midfield player, or do you think he's going to go back to being a left back?
Eddie Howe's already said he bought him as a left back. So I think he'll play as a left back. Now, he hasn't always played as a left back for Newcastle when he's played. I think at Old Trafford he was brought on, he started, I think, as a midfielder. Played in centre mid. He played in centre mid when we beat Man City in the Carabao Cup, and he only played 45 minutes there. And so he has played in various different positions. He started at left back against Dortmund, so he has played in a number of various different positions. But he will be a left back for Newcastle United, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, talking to left backs, I mean, another one of our old boys you've got as well, Tino Livramento, who's picked him up from Southampton. Mate, we don't half produce decent fullbacks. He's looking like he's doing all right as well. How impressed have you been by him? Because again, it's youngsters coming in, almost playing with a sense of fearlessness. He's looked very good. I mean, do you see him playing a big part sort of this season, and obviously certainly in years to come?
Well, this one's interesting because when we first had our links with Tino Livramento, I put on socials, I was like, we need to get this guy. Like, this guy is quality. Yes, he's had a bad knee injury and been out for a year, but he was doing absolute bits at Southampton. There was no doubt about it. He was one of the best right backs in the Premier League in that season, in his first season when he went and signed from Chelsea to Southampton. He was brilliant. So I'd seen that and I was like, we have to get this guy in. And Newcastle fans go, we don't need him. We've got Trippier. You know, he's not going to come and be in backup. We're not going to spend 30 odd million for him to be a backup. And he came in and I was buzzing. And he had a little bit of a slow start because Trippier was just playing so well, he weren't getting in the team. But all of a sudden, with the team getting injuries and picking up injuries, he's managed to come in and play. And I tell you what, the Carabao Cup game against Man City, he got man of the match. He was superb. He was outstanding. Best player on the pitch, easily. And he did the same again at Old Trafford as well. Was absolutely sensational. The run that he made for Miguel Almiron to put us 1-0 up at Old Trafford, that run where he just left Mason Mount for dead. He left, I think it might have been Amrabat.
He went back about 3 or 4 players, didn't he?
Oh, it was unbelievable. This guy's a right back, and he's absolutely tearing players to shreds. And you're thinking, we've got a future baller here, and he's had a couple of really good games since that moment. He's got the full package. He's quick, lightning quick. He's a good defender, good tackler, decent in the air, got a good cross on him. Everything you want in a right back. And he's English.
Yeah.
So that comes with the value. And you look at him and you're looking at Reece James and you're thinking, with the ages they're at, that's England's future.
I mean, we wanted to keep him, but he wanted to go and play regular football. So there wasn't really, do you know what I mean? Like, it's almost a sense of one of them unfortunate ones where he probably is good enough to play for a team like Chelsea, but the problem is, unless you're sort of the best in the world, you're not gonna play ahead of Reece James on a regular basis. So I guess for a young player, it's a brave decision to make as well, to go to Southampton, no disrespect, a lesser team, and go and play on a regular basis, because a lot of players would just sit at Chelsea, play here and there in the cup or whatever, pick up their wages and be quite content. So, I think it's fair play to him. He's now found himself at a big club, an exciting project, and yeah, he's certainly going to be one to look out for in the future. I mean, mate, in terms of the game itself, how do you see it going? Because I know obviously the injury list you've got is quite big. I did see a few bits of news that Isaac is probably going to be back for this one, which I guess is good, that because Callum Wilson's now out. And one of the midfielders is possibly back as well. It might be Anderson. I think I've seen that, or it's someone else is back as well potentially. But
there's a few. There's a few
back. I was going to bring the injuries up on the screen. I mean, it's from Transfer Markt. I know a few of them are definitely back now. But I mean, obviously Barnes is still out. We know Tonali suspended. But who's back out of them then? I've seen Isaac's back, but anyone else back?
Well, you talked about Harvey Barnes. He's been back on grass for the last week and a half. Training, and he's a lot closer than people thought. We didn't think we'd see him until 2024. Eddie Howe said in his presser before Bournemouth that he could well be back sooner. And there was talks that he could be back for Man United next week, but there's one or two that we can't trust Eddie Howe. He would tell us a player's out for 6 months and he'll start him the next day.
You see him next week, don't you?
Yeah, he's been doing that to us for the last year, to the point where not even the journalists can take his word for gospel anymore. We were told that Sven Botman isn't going to be fit until February because he's having surgery. We then hear a couple of days ago he's been training for the last week, and that providing his knee doesn't swell up, he could be back as well. So we just don't know. So Harvey Barnes, I would say maybe just a week too early. Sven Botman, I've got no idea. He's been out for 8 weeks. He was only meant to be out for a couple. He could be back any time. So I don't want to even put my neck out on the line to say that he could be fit. Isaac's definitely fit. Who else is there not on that list? So so the players we've got back, we've got Bruno back from suspension, so he's back, and he's fit. We've got Isaac back. We've got Miggy, who we thought did a hamstring, but he didn't go on international duty. He's back. He's ready to go. So that's 3. And then Sean Longstaff, we think, has a chance. It's not guaranteed, but there's a chance that those 4 players could be back. With Barnes and Botman up in the air as potential. So there's a chance there could be sort of 6 players. There's a chance it could only be 3.
Who's going to play left back? If Byrne and Target are both out, who's going to play left back? We put Livramento at left back.
Livramento will probably play, or what we did in the second half against when we beat Arsenal. Because Dan Burn went off injured, we put Trippier left back.
Yeah.
Livramento right back, because obviously Trippier can play there. He played there.
He's played there for England, hasn't he? Yeah.
He did really well against
there's options then. So it's not like, obviously it's not ideal, but it's not actually a total disaster.
No.
In that sense.
We will be a lot stronger potentially
Bournemouth
going into what we were at Bournemouth. Like if we had these level of players available, like the likes of Isaac and Bruno being fit and not being suspended, and just having a recognised striker, I think we'd have probably gone and beat Bournemouth. If I'm honest with you, we just could not create anything because we didn't have a target man, a focal point to come in and let's be honest. Like Alexander Isak is still up there. He's in the top 3 or 4, I think, for top scorers in the Premier League this season. He scored 7, and he ain't even played in the last few weeks. He's been injured last 4 or 5 weeks. So you know what I mean? Like he can score goals, and he's a proper striker. But we're hoping that he's back fit now. I think he's used the international break to up the levels of his training. What we need now is a run of games from him. I'm not worried about the goal scoring aspect because he will score goals.
Yeah.
We just need a run of games from him now where he's fit and firing. And when he's firing on all cylinders, the pace, the skill, the trickery, there's always a chance.
He's an exceptional centre forward. I think you've done very well to get him. Even when you look at the market this day and age, like sort of 60 million quid for a 24-year-old who's got his best years ahead of him, is going to develop so much more. It's a fantastic piece of business. I think he's a top striker, and you do well to keep hold of him over the next few years potentially. I mean, obviously the club continues to develop. There's no reason for him to leave, but if he keeps going at the rate he does go at, there will be bigger teams kind of sniffing around him for sure. But mate, in terms of Chelsea, what have you made of Chelsea? Obviously, we come to St James's Park on the weekend. We've got a bit of a mixed bag there. We don't tend to do awfully well. Obviously, we lost 1-0 last year. Joe Willock scoring, obviously, last game before the World Cup. I think season before we did win, or Reece James bagged a couple. I think we won 3-0 or 3-1. But in general, we don't have the best of records there. But we are coming off the back of 2 positive results. Yes, we're 10th in the table. We should have more points on the board. We should be doing better. But what have you made of Chelsea? Do you have any worries about the game heading into the weekend?
Definitely. Look, Chelsea are flying right now. They've had a couple of big results. Really, obviously the Tottenham one, sort of self-inflicted by Tottenham, but you guys took you longer than you would have expected.
It took 20 minutes to work out how to break down a high line, but honestly, that should have been. We could have scored 10. That game should have been 10-1
easily. Jackson on his own should have had 6 or 7.
Yeah.
With the amount of chances that you guys created, and what it did, it gave confidence. So it took you then into that Man City game with confidence, and you could see that confidence oozing through you. It was a fantastic game of football to watch from a neutral point of view, but you could see the confidence running through you, the type of football you're playing, attacking, going forward. It was posh football. That's what we come to expect when he was manager of Tottenham, and now he seems like he's just starting to turn that screw a little bit and get those players playing that attacking football that no doubt you boys would enjoy. So yeah, from our point, it is worrying. This isn't the same Chelsea team that's come to St James's Park that it did last season, but equally, lesser Newcastle teams have beat better Chelsea teams at St James's Park. So it's quite hard to kind of judge what it's going to be like or where it's going to be at. I think Newcastle fans will be up for it. I think the players will want to hit back. They will be rested. They've got St James's Park. in the palm of their hand when they make that place rocking, and we're going to need that 110%. And we're going to hope that you guys being away from home is going to be the difference maker for us.
I mean, our away form is a lot better than our home form. We got one win at Stamford Bridge this season, and that's against Luton. Like, that's the only win we've had at home this season. Away from home, we're a lot better. But I've always said St James's Park is one of, if not the hardest places to go in the Premier League. It's really difficult. The atmosphere is amazing. And if you go a goal down, it's fucking tough to get back into the game. So, look, I think it's a bit of, look, obviously, if Newcastle are slightly depleted, it's a bit of a leveler. I do feel that, if Chelsea are going to get a positive result here, a win or whatever it is, or maybe a draw potentially, like, for me, this is the best opportunity we're going to have to win at St James's Park in a long time. I suppose you couldn't maybe pick a better time to play Newcastle in terms of coming off the break, not in the best of form, a lot of injuries. Yes, some key players coming back, but by no means at full strength. Like, from a Chelsea perspective, like, if there's ever an opportunity to take advantage, then it has to be this. It has to be this weekend. But look, I think we're improving for sure. It's going to help us that Newcastle are a decent side. They come out and play football. They're not one of those teams that will just sit deep and get men behind the ball. That will play to our advantage. Away from home, we have done better, and the attack has started to click the last few weeks. We've had 8 goals in our last 2 games. We barely scored 8 goals last season. So, like, things are getting a bit better. Cole Palmer's had an exceptional start. Obviously, England debut over the break. Raheem Sterling coming into some good form. We've got Christopher Nkunku back in full training now. Could be on the bench for this game. So we've got a lot of things going our way, and I do feel confident. But it's an away game. There's no easy games in the Premier League, and winning away from home in the Premier League is a really, really tough thing to do. I think Newcastle will probably come out the blocks quickly. And it's just about whether we can weather the storm, play ourselves into the game, because I've got no doubt we'll create chances. But it's the same thing with Chelsea. It's just, are we going to get the attack that's turned up, for the last couple of games? Or are we going to get the attack that's, we saw in the early parts of the season that can't finish any chances? It's because we're such a new team still. It's still like, you're still not sure what you're going to get. Yes, you've seen signs from Pochettino in terms of identity, style of play, etc. You've seen a basis of what you might get, but because we're still young and inexperienced and inconsistent, like, you might get a couple of games like we've had in the last week, and then you might get a couple of really shit games, and that's just kind of how it is right now. So you're not really sure what kind of Chelsea's going to turn up. But I mean, in terms of threats, I mean, how impressed have you been by Cole Palmer? Because I know we talk about it on Saeed's show at times and just in general, but like, he's come in. I don't really think anyone expected Chelsea to sign him, and he's literally not had a bad minute. I mean, I guess you must be equally as surprised as a lot of Chelsea fans are to see how well he's done.
I love the confidence in him. I love the confidence for him to firstly make that move and go, you know what, I want to be a main man at another club, another big club. Not easy to do. The easy thing would have for him to have stayed at Man City, comfort zone, almost guaranteed trophies, and slowly integrated into the team. And I love the confidence about him. And he's taken that confidence into his football. He looks a real player, a real talent. I didn't realise his sort of nationality is similar to sort of my family, because he's got St Kitts and Nevis as his background.
I think it's his grandparents or something. Yeah.
No, I think it's his dad.
Oh, his dad, is it? Oh, yeah.
It might be his dad from the Caribbean. I mean, I didn't realize that until recently, because he's got the St Kitts flag
on his boots,
flag on his boots, which was a nice touch. But he's been brilliant for you guys, scoring important goals, calm under pressure. Some of the football he played against Man City was sensational. The way he was just gliding past some of their boys, and some of their boys are some of the best around, and he made them look average. So he's going to be a player that we're going to need to be worried about. Raheem Sterling's another one. Raheem Sterling is now finding his Man City form for Chelsea. The way he's playing, he was against
time.
Yeah, it took a while, but then you look at the turbulence that Chelsea have had, and you think, is that the reason why he wasn't playing like that? And now you've seen him play with a manager that knows what he's doing, and with the club a little bit more settled, you're now seeing the best of Raheem Sterling, and again, those two are two players that we're going to have to keep quiet if we're going to take the points. So I do see people are very quick to point the finger at young players, particularly like Cole Palmer, and say, "Oh, not quite good enough, or he isn't hitting the heights because he's not scoring every week or whatever." But I think we put too much expectations at times on young players, and sometimes you just got to go, you know what? Let's evaluate him over the season. Let's not get on his back. Let's just see how he progresses and the football he plays. And at the moment, he's doing the stuff.
No, he absolutely is, and I think he's not had a bad minute in a Chelsea shirt. But as you say, with young players, he will have a dip. Like he'll go through a run of matches where he's not playing that well, and he's not having an effect on the game. And that's just the time for everyone to stay calm, and just accept it's part of the career, it's part of the learning curve. You're not going to play well every week. Yeah, it's great if you're starting how he is now, fantastic. But ultimately there'll be ups and downs, and it's just about sticking with young players and not getting on their backs if they have a couple of crap games. Like it's not the end of the world. It's going to happen, and particularly with Chelsea as well, when you've got so many young players all in a team at the same time. We've got in a starting 11, we've got 2 players over 26. That's in Sterling and Silva. Everyone else is in their early 20s. So it's like it bodes well for the future, but it does give you an indication that whilst this team will have very good moments, there's also a tendency to have lapses in concentration. There's a tendency to lose heads a little bit at times, not stay calm. I think if we'd had more experience on the pitch against Tottenham, we would have broken that high line much earlier than we did. We were rushing passes, we were overplaying, overthinking things. It just requires a calm head, and I think at times that's perhaps what we lack a little bit. But look, generally, I'm pleased with the direction that the club's heading in, but I'm also fully aware that despite the positivity, we are still 10th in the table. We're coming into a notoriously tough run up to the new year. We don't tend to do very well in December historically, and this for me is going to be make or break for Chelsea. This run of games up to the new year on whether we're going to qualify for the Champions League or not. We're 10 points off Spurs, 9 off Villa. If that becomes 12 or 15 points in the new year, we can forget it. So this run of games is so important. Our next 3 are all against teams above us.
I was going to say, who got you boys?
We've got you boys, and we've got Brighton at Stamford Bridge the following weekend. And then we've got Man United away in the midweek after the Brighton game. And then we've got Everton away the following weekend after that. So, all that's missing now for me is us putting together a run of wins. We've shown that we can go toe-to-toe with the best teams in the league. Now we need to put together a run of 3 or 4 wins. And that's still a little bit of an unknown of whether we can actually do that. So time will tell. But I mean, in terms of Newcastle, and obviously, have you got a tough run coming up, sort of the run of games now into the new year? I mean, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, it is a little bit of a tough run. I'm not going to lie. We've got obviously we've got you boys on Saturday. Obviously including the Champions League. We've got PSG, and then we've got Man United at home. Then we have Everton at Goodison Park midweek. I think when you play Man U, we've got Everton. I think it might even be on the same day as well. And then we go after that. I believe we go away to Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So that won't be easy either, although they're depleted. They've got a number of players absent. So then we go to Spurs. Then after that, I think we've got a run of Fulham at home, Luton away, Forest at home. But it's
winnable games.
Yeah, they are. I mean, a lot of them are winnable games, but it's just whether you can put that together and go on that sort of run, because that sort of run puts you in the top 3, because all the other teams are bound to drop points at some point. So that puts you in the top 3 race. But equally, you could lose a number of those games. You could be the opposite. You could be sitting, like for us, the 7th right now, and been in and around that most of the season. We could be sitting in sort of 10th. Yeah. And that's just the reality of the situation. But in the mix of all of that, we have a nice little cup game.
Oh, we got Carabao Cup quarter final in about 3 weeks' time, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah. So they're coming thick and fast, and I'm not even mentioning there. We've got the final Champions League game against AC Milan. So things ain't stopping. That's why
you wouldn't have it any other way. You wouldn't have it any other way. You know, we've suffered too long with these international breaks. Now the games are coming thick and fast. It's what you look forward to. It's what it's all about, isn't it? But I mean, just kind of last few things on the game, mate. Like, how important do you think that midfield battle is going to be? Obviously, we've got Enzo Caicedo and Conor Gallagher in there who are starting to come together. There seems to be a nice balance there. Obviously, your first choice midfield would be probably Tonali, Bruno, and Joelinton. Obviously, that's not going to be there. But I mean, how do you see that midfield battle going? Do you think you've got enough in there to cope with kind of what we've got to offer in Enzo Caicedo and obviously Conor Gallagher, who's having a superb season?
Yes, is the answer. Do we have enough? I think we proved it against Arsenal. We went to war with Arsenal, particularly in that midfield. It was a really good battle. Bruno, Joelinton, Sean Longstaff, all three of them were superb. And then we have the alternative option of having a Joe Willock who can come on and change a game. He's brilliant in centre mid. You can play him out on the left. Ultimately, where he set up the winning goal for us to beat Arsenal. So I do think we've got enough, particularly at St James's Park. We've got enough there. We've got enough legs. You know, I'm confident that those boys can outrun most midfields in a season in terms of intense running, intense pressing, battle. They're not some of those like Sean Longstaff, maybe Joelinton, aren't really kind of the high profile names that people talk about, but they work together as a unit. So I think Longstaff coming back in will be important. I think if Joe Willock's in there, I'm be interested to see.
He got the winner last season, didn't he?
Yeah. And he's come back and been a real important player for us. And I think playing back with Joelinton in that midfield has really kind of kicked his game on again. He was out for 5 months. He was out for a long time. And
he's another good player. He is a decent player. He's a good player. Another one that you could definitely do. Before we do score predictions, mate, I just want to what are the expectations for Newcastle this season? You know, obviously you've got Carabao Cup quarterfinal. You made the final last year. You've already knocked both Manchester clubs out of this season's competition. Is that still a big priority to get your hands on a bit of silver, whether it's a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup or whatever it might be? And I guess league is just, finish up as high as you can.
It has to be, Charlie. And the reason being is because we haven't won anything for a long time. Any trophy, give us a Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, whatever it is, we'll take it 100%. And the reason being is because we want a major trophy. We want a major trophy, I think, and winning a major trophy allows us to kick on to the next phase. And it gives the players that we've got in that squad confidence that they can go and win trophies. And when you have that confidence, you look at yourselves back in 2003, you look at Man City. Once you win that first big trophy or the first couple, it just breeds confidence. And then it changes your mentality of your club completely because you're then a trophy-winning club. And if you've got the financial backing, unlike Leicester won a few trophies, but they never really had the financial backing to keep going.
It sort of fell away a little bit, didn't it?
And they did. They fell away because of that. Whereas the likes of you boys in 2003, the likes of Man City, the likes of us, we know that by winning trophies, we've got the financial might.
Yeah.
Keep going and to keep buying and pushing.
Do you feel is there a pressure from above, from ownership? Obviously we can't really factually quantify this, but is there kind of an expectation from the ownership that trophies do need to come sooner rather than later? Is there a time scale on that kind of thing, or is it very much just we're going with the process? Is there looking at it right in say year 3? We need to of potentially secure a trophy, or is it not really like that? Is there an expectation from the ownership that a trophy needs to come as soon as possible?
No, that's not been made clear at all. There's no expectation there at all. Is the point that I'm making? Not been mentioned by the club at all in terms of we need a trophy by this time or that time. Nothing of the sort. But I think internally, they'll be having that conversation. I don't think it'll be as early as 3 years because, unlike Chelsea and Man City, we had to start right from the bottom. When the new ownership came in, we were like literally bottom of the league, and so they know that the hard work is going to take a little bit longer than the likes of Chelsea, Man City, and the reason being is because of where we started, but equally because we're not able to spend that sort of money. That's the position that we're in because of FFP and all the rest of it. We can't just go and splash a load of money to take us right up there straight away instantly and just keep being able to do it. So we've got to do it strategically, and the club know that. So they will have a vision they would have probably set out a 5-year vision, or maybe a 3, a 5, a 7, and a 10-year vision. And at this moment in time, we're closer or further ahead than we want to be, or we expect it to be, shall I say.
Yeah.
So it's that building. We've just got to build. And it's hard. It's hard because we've seen success already getting the Champions League. You see the fans starting to turn and get a little bit more expectant in terms of performances, but you've got to kind of hold on to it. Think it's going to come. We just got to be patient with it.
Mate, it's the same for both of us. Like, we're both in sort of, obviously, like, we're in similar situations, but different at the same time. But it's people hate to hear it, but you do have to be patient because these things take time. That is the reality of the situation. These things take time. It's gonna be a slow burner. It will take time to get there. It's gonna take more investment. There'll be more dark days and bumps in the road, like we're gonna have as well. But I think ultimately, like, Chelsea and Newcastle are definitely two teams that are on the up, and they will get it right. There will be success. Obviously, success will probably come to Chelsea before it comes to Newcastle, but Newcastle are absolutely on that trajectory to get up to being a regular sort of top 5 Premier League side and competing for trophies and winning on a regular basis. That is obviously the aim. I think we'll see the investment increase as you get more years into it, and it's definitely an exciting time for both sets of fans. But last thing before I let you go, mate, score prediction for this weekend. What are you saying? Obviously, you boys have got a great record at St James's Park. It's a tough place to go and win. So yeah, what are you saying? You obviously going to back your boys?
I'm going to back the boys. I'm going to stick to a score prediction that I've kept for the last few games now. I'm going to stick with a 2-1 Newcastle win. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be a tight game. I think there'll be times where it'll be edgy for both teams, whether we're putting the pressure on or you are. But I think because it's at St James's Park, I think with the situation that we have, we might well just nick it. Yeah,
no, I hear it. I'm gonna back us. Unsurprisingly, I think we can nick a 2-1 ourselves. But it's certainly going to be an exciting game. Guys, I'm gonna be jumping on Pete's channel in 5 minutes, so I'll drop the link in the chat. Make sure you come over there and join us. It's tagged in the title. Make sure you head over to Loaded Mag NUFC. Show the guys some love. Subscribe to the channel. I'm just going to quickly round this one out, but thanks for your time as always, and I'll catch you in a few minutes. Top man as always.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, mate. See you in a sec. Guys, I'll be jumping on with Pete in 5 minutes time, people. So yeah, I'm just going to do another quick 5 minutes. What have we got going on here? You got United fans trolling in the chat. Glazer's staying 10 more years. Ten Hag is a fucking clown. That's all that needs to be said. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Nah, big yourselves up, guys. Big yourselves up. I mean, people, I've got about four or 5 minutes. How are we feeling heading into this game, guys? It's obviously going to be a tough one. By the way, guys, 6 more likes required for the 50 likes mark. That has got to be the minimum target. So what are we saying, people? What are we saying? Are we getting 6 more likes in the next 3 minutes? That does need to be done, people. 6 more likes in the next 3 minutes. Let's run it up. And let's get this done. But yeah, a great chat with Pete, as always. It's going to be an interesting game for sure. Where is your 3 Champions Leagues? Well, we've got 2. So, I mean, when was the last time you won the Champions League? Oh, 2008. Yeah, I thought so. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Guys, get your score predictions in the chat. I mean, United, just like London, your city's blue. Simple as that. Simple as that. Guys, what we saying? Score predictions. Get a few of those in the chat, guys. It would be greatly appreciated. Keep running the likes up. Subscribe if you're new around here as well, people. Heading ever closer to the 10, not the 10K. Oh, well, I guess we are heading closer to the 10K mark, but I mean, we're heading closer to 7K by the day. We are, how many is that? 64, 74, 84, 94. We're 46 away, people. So, yeah, every new subscriber really, really helps on this one. So, yeah, run it up, people. Run it up. What have we got here? We've got 3-0, 2-0 Chelsea, 3-1. We've got a 2-0 Chelsea, a 2-1 Chelsea as well. So, yeah, I mean, mate, United have always got to live in the past off their glories. When was your last Premier League title? What, over 10 years ago? Over 10 years ago. Mate, United are irrelevant now. They're not a big club. They're not a big club. When you're dining at the top table, come let us know again, because I guarantee we'll win a Premier League title or a European trophy before United do. That is absolutely clear in my mind. We are in a much better position. There's no denying that, guys. There's no denying that. My guy's flexing trophies that he wasn't even born to see. Yeah, mad. This is the world. This is the world that we're living. Glazers stay in 10 more years. Da, 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 da. Old Trafford is falling down. Da, 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 da. Ten Hag is a fucking clown. Da, 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 da. Glazers stay in 10 more years. Da, 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 da. Chelsea boys are on the beers. Mate, see you in a couple of weeks, December 6th. We'll be belting that out in the away end. And you guys will be silenced once and for all. Once and for all. But no, I appreciate the support, Rival fans coming to join in. It's all good fun. It's all good banter. Yeah, great to have the support from all over the place, people. It is massively appreciated. What's also massively appreciated is we can quickly run this up to 50 likes. We need 5 more likes in literally the last minute. So, guys, we need to hit up 5 likes. I'm going to be cutting this one slightly short because I am jumping on with Pete. Let me just quickly get the link for you guys. So you guys that have been obviously tuning in tonight on my channel can head over and give me some support in the chat over there. It's going to be dominated by the Geordies. So make sure, guys, that you do. I'm going to share this. We're going to copy that link, and I'm going to put that into the chat. So, guys, I'm going to be heading over to Loaded Mag UFC. We're going to be chatting with Pete and the boys over there. Chelsea, Newcastle. Come and support me in the chat there. People, run the likes up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Thanks, as always, to everyone who has locked in. It is greatly appreciated, guys. 2 more likes. Come on, people. I'm not going to leave until we get these last 2 likes. I know that's a bit beggy, but yeah, it needs to happen. It needs to be done. London is blue just like Manchester. Keep flexing trophies. It's always good fun. But yeah, keep smashing those likes, people. Keep running it up. We need 2 more. Sorry, 2 more likes, and then we are there, guys. 2 more likes, and we're there. So let's get it done, people. No excuses not to. Yep, the iconic number 7 jersey is currently being disgraced. That's where we're at right now. It is currently being disgraced, but it is what it is. 1 more like, guys. 1 more like to go on this one. What are we saying, people? What are we saying? 1 more like. Let's get it done. But yeah, look, guys, it's going to be an interesting one. I've got loads more coming this week on the Newcastle game. We're going to be doing a live stream probably Friday evening, or maybe tomorrow evening. Actually, we'll do the live stream. And then Friday evening, I might do a call-in show. I'll probably do call-in show tomorrow, preview Friday, guys. So there's lots to look forward to on the channel. As I say, make sure you hit the link in the chat. This one here. Come over to Loaded Mag UFC. Join me in the chat there. It will be greatly appreciated. Big up to every single one of you that's locked in tonight. Good show. Great to have the opposition previews back on the road. Guys, smash the likes on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. I'll catch you on Loaded Mag UFC in just a sec. Up the Chelsea and peace out, people.